Guess who's back? Back again with another book haul. I have to say before we get into anything regarding book hauling, showing you the books I've recently purchased, I just have to say this background is like taking me back to like 2 years ago when I had a similar setup, because the whole like big bookshelf, small bookshelf, big one on the other side just really took me back, and it made me like so happy for some reason. So I'm glad that we're here, friends. Hi. Very good-naturedly, I'd argue. I have bought more books. Are we surprised? Mel, hi! I have accumulated a few books from the span of December all the way to today. And let's get into the first one. Queen of Myth and Monsters by Scarlett St. Clair. One that I was so excited about back when I pre-ordered it as soon as I finished King of Battle and Blood last year. However, now I'm scared because the first book ended in a cliffhanger using a trope that I'm not necessarily a fan of. And so I am scared to see how it's going to be further executed in the second one, which is why I haven't read it yet. Because listen, if there is something I will say till the end of my days, I will die on this hill alone if need be, is that we are deprived of good vampire romances. Where are they? Where are the good ones? I have been recommended some, I've DNF'd them, and this is actually something I really enjoyed. So basically in this one, we have got an enemies to lovers following Isolde, who is a human princess, and then Adrian, who is a vampire king. And these two are sworn enemies. They've never met each other. However, lore and the kingdom say that he is this evil mastermind who literally kills everybody and anybody that will step in his way. And they're not wrong. And so the two basically strike a marriage of convenience, and it will shake up both of their worlds for very different reasons, primarily because neither of them are what the other expected. And what I truly enjoyed about the first one is that although it can come across as toxic sometimes, it is peak like stay toxic, friends. Like I actually love this. And also I love that they both give each other their spaces to do their thing without really like stepping onto each other's toes. I'm scared, but I do have this because I pre-ordered it. You can tell I bought this one around the holiday season. Except that I bought this book and then it got here after the fact. However, I'm not ruling out that I could read this before Christmas time this year because I want to experience the cuteness of a cat cafe, because it's a cat cafe, come on. I would read that any time of year, and as a cat mom myself, I am very excited. So this one follows our main character who owns a cat cafe. She thought it would be like a very good serviced, good-natured, wholesome, lovable time, and yet she finds herself with more kittens and cats than she knows what to do with, and there really aren't a lot of people adopting, and so she teams up with like a marketing protege in order to attempt to bring business into the cat cafe, except that there is attraction, but they're trying to keep it professional, and I am just excited to see it all unfold. It is the sad reality that cats sometimes, depending on where you live, are a lot harder to get adopted than a dog. So I personally think I am going to love this. I hope it's not too sad. I would shed some tears, that's fine. I think because of that subject matter, it could get quite emotional. However, I'm hoping for just like mostly a wholesome time. Have I read the second book in this series? No. But I bought the third one. I bought Before Your Memory Fades because I absolutely loved Before the Coffee Gets Cold, and it quickly became one of my favorite books. I think the premise itself is super interesting, where when you go to a cafe with a particular someone and you have a memory with that person in this establishment, you could travel back in time under a certain, you know, set of rules and regulations in order to make amends, heal, and sort of work on those things that you could potentially regret. We follow a collection of short-ish stories that all in the end sort of weave together in like a really good way. But essentially each story within each installment stands on its own, and it tells the story of one person going back in time and doing their thing. And I just thought it was very beautiful. As far as the first book goes, I own the second one. Obviously, now I own the third. Absolutely loved Delilah Green Doesn't Care. And actually, I bought the sequel before I had even read Delilah Green because I was buying my friend's Christmas presents, and I had gifted one of my friends both Delilah and Astrid's book. And I was just like, listen, let me just buy 2 copies of Astrid. So I already have Astrid Parker Doesn't Fail. And I am very excited to read this. Of course, as a synopsis goes, is it a spoiler? Is it not a spoiler? Like, the book is out. The book being out in and of itself is a spoiler to what obviously goes down in Delilah Green, but I myself don't quite know all of the ins and outs of this book. I just know based on the cover, we are probably going to touch on the profession of Astrid, which I can't remember if she's an architect or an interior designer. One of the two. I know she works somewhat related to real estate, home renovations, or construction. And listen, I am here for the Sapphics building homes together and just decorating and figuring out how they can get together and probably move past some trauma. Astrid has some serious work to do, let me tell ya. This girl is a literal brat up and down, so rude, and I love her for it. But I am down for some growth, particularly when it comes to healing her relationship with Delilah and with her family in general, and actually finding a relationship that she is not hiding behind, and actually being in a relationship that feels genuine to her and that is actually healthy for all of the people involved. So very, very excited for this one. Probably will read it sometime soon. These next few books I'm about to show you reflect what mindset I was in when I bought these books. The first one is Never Let Me Go by Kazuo Ishiguro. I have only read Clara and the Sun and I loved it. I absolutely loved every second of it. The audiobook was phenomenal. So if you've read this, if you've listened to the audiobook, let a girl know if the audiobook is the way to go. I'm not sure if it's going to be like the same narrator, if it's going to be somebody different. I'm not quite sure where that stands. All I know about this book too is that we are seeing the story through Kathy's eyes, who is sort of reminiscing about her childhood in this very specific school, and she is trying to come to terms with a lot of what she experienced, which seemingly a lot of it was inevitable, and also what her closest friends experienced in like the wider like array of the world, which I just think sounds so interesting. So we'll see what happens with this one. I would also argue that when it comes to the subject of loneliness in particular, this book makes me a little bit more excited to read about it than Never Let Me Go. I feel like in Never Let Me Go, I am there for like the dynamics perhaps, but The Lonely City is one that I am in particularly for that feeling of loneliness. We follow the author herself actually, because it's a nonfiction. We follow the author Olivia as she finds herself incredibly riddled by the feeling of loneliness and being very ashamed of it, and really putting herself up to the task to explore the city she has recently moved to. I believe it is recently moved. Is it? Yes, recently moved to New York, and she sort of propositions herself to explore the city through its art in the hopes that that will somehow make her feel more fulfilled. And I can't wait to read this. I feel like because it is nonfiction, it's probably going to hit perhaps in a lot more ways than a fiction book maybe would not. I think the point of relatability might be very, very good. So I think this will probably come in very handy because it's already things I've been thinking of. Another nonfiction, a memoir, is actually a therapy memoir, which I have never quite seen before. I have seen books written by therapists, but I've never seen somebody share their experience in therapy, record those sessions, and then write essays about them. It's like also very specific. I want to die, but I want to eat tteokbokki, and I am very excited about this one. A little bit scared because I have heard some recent not so good reviews from my patrons. However, I still am quite curious to see exactly what she is going to explore here. It is set to be geared particularly towards a generation like mine that is obviously very much in social media, and it somewhat affects your daily living. I don't know, but I'm curious. I'm going to read it. I am so excited about this one. I don't think you guys quite understand. So I have been getting a lot of recent recs from Mina because Mina's just on it, okay? Mina just understands the wide variety of people watching her and exactly what they want and need, because this is exactly what I want and need. I have never read a Rin Chupeco book. However, I am very, very excited about it because it has vampires, it is polyamorous, it is action-packed, and apparently is just really, really good. She, I'm pretty sure, said that this was one of her favorite reads of February. I very quickly jumped on this bandwagon. Not only is the cover stunning, but I again, we're deprived of good vampire stories, and I have heard great things about Tribeca's work. So if you were to ask me, Mel, what is this book about? I don't know. I didn't read the synopsis. I got stuck on vampires and polyamorous, and that's where I tapped out. But actually, I tapped in because I paid with my card, and then I got the book. I don't know what you want from me. Also, I never said the title. Silver Under Nightfall. I'm a basic girl with basic needs. That's all. I love Truly Devious. I truly do. So, 9 Liars was bought, and I don't know when I'm going to read this, but the intent is to read it at some point of this year. But we essentially follow Stevie, who is a true crime aficionada. She absolutely loves true crime. She wants to do that for a living. She gets invited to Ellingham Academy, which is an invite-only, super prestigious, all expenses paid school, in order to focus on a cold case that she will re-pick back up and attempt to solve, which is a set of murders, actually, that happened in said school. And the first trilogy is focused on that. And then the next book, The Box in the Woods, is its own little mystery. It's a slasher, actually, and it's everything. And then 9 Liars, which I have no idea what it's about beside them going to London. I'm blaming Haley Pham for this one. And by extension, Lynn Painter, because, I mean, it's all a cycle and it all ties to Haley. Haley loves Better Than the Movies, and so I read Better Than the Movies. I fell in love with Better Than the Movies, and then she asked Lynn Painter to recommend a book. I will leave her video linked down below. It's everything. Point is, Billy Summers by Stephen King popped up. There was all praise for Billy Summers, so I got Billy Summers. I own some of the Halloween editions, which are very, very pretty. Have not read either of them quite yet. However, now I own this one too, and I don't know what to do with myself. I know we follow, I think it's a sniper for hire, I'm pretty sure, and basically, like, if you are a target of Billy Summers, like, I'm sorry, buddy, but like, you're out of commission. But he has a moral compass, so he will only do it if you're actually a bad person, and it kind of goes from there. I really don't know, like, the full length of this, but listen, if there is anything I love seeing is people enjoy their books, because by extension, it makes me feel like I'm going to enjoy the books that they're recommending. I've got Misery, I've got Carrie, and I've got Billy Summers. I never thought I'd own Stephen King books, and yet here I am. Oh, how the great have fallen. We're no strangers to this. Mel likes manga, and I was talking to my brother because I was like, which ones should I buy next? Because he knows a lot more about manga than I do. He loves it. He reads it a ton. And so I have slowly but surely dipped my toes in it, and I do have some favorite series, but I was like, so where should I go next? Like, what should I do? And so I ended up buying Soul Eater because he was like, I think this is a good one. It's one of the first few ones I read. I think you would really like it. Like, there's Grim Reapers in here, and that's kind of what sold me. I'm not going to lie to you guys. I don't know the ins and outs of the story. All I know is Grim Reapers, and that's the extent of it. Another manga is The Witcher, Ronin. I had no idea that this existed up until one of you guys actually talked about it in the readathon back in January in the live chat. And I love The Witcher. Listen, have I only gotten through The Last Wish? Yes, but that is only but a technicality, okay? And so I heard manga and I was like, I need to get it because this is set in the Edo period in Japan. I think that's super cool. I think it's super cool that we are now getting, or I don't know if this always has been the norm because I'm not that familiar with like the publishings of The Witcher, but I think it's like super, super cool that we also get other stories other than Geralt of Rivia, and that we get to see not only the differences between Witchers in different cultural backgrounds, but also in different periods of time. I think this is really, really fascinating, and so I can't wait to read this. I was also sent an ARC by Celadon Books for The Angel Maker, which I'm pretty sure it came out in February. It's definitely out now, but this is The Angel Maker by Alex North. I know the same author has, The Whisper Man, The Shadows. I think this is the one. I always get this author confused with the other one, the one that has the massive book I own. Hold up. The author of The Chestnut Man, just because I think the cover compositions and the titles of the books are so very similar. So I've never read anything by either of them, so I don't know where I was going with that, but I haven't read anything by Alex North. I also don't know the synopsis. This says, growing up in a beautiful house in the English countryside, the cats are fighting. That is not a part of the synopsis. Katie Shaw lived a charming charmed life. At the cusp of graduation, she had big dreams, a devoted boyfriend, and a little brother she protected fiercely, until the day a violent stranger changed the fate of her family forever. Oh, years later, still unable to live down the guilt surrounding what happened to her brother, and now with a child of her own to protect, Katie struggles to separate the real threats from the imagined. Okay, that's actually really interesting. And not only did they send the book, but they also sent out like these little envelopes for the people who received a physical arc to open in like very specific chapters. Thank you so much to Celadon Books for sending this over, because this is quite nice. I am so excited to read this book. You guys don't even understand. Not only because everybody has loved this, it's probably one of the most read books of 2022, but also because anytime I read the synopsis, it literally makes me want to sob my eyes out. That is Lessons in Chemistry. I decided to get the UK cover instead of the US one because the author has actually spoken out about her really not loving the US cover, which I think is like such a cool thing to admit. I feel like a lot of authors are sometimes very reluctant to share opinions on covers and just publishing decisions because a lot of the time, I mean, they do have their input, but the final say is sometimes a little bit all over the place. And so she has talked about how she doesn't like the fact that it's pink because it does not reflect on the main character for some other reason, which I don't know because I have yet to read the book, but I have heard that, and so I decided to go for the UK cover, which I do like anyway because not only is this a stunning cover like overall, this is what really got me, is the fact that the naked hardback has the periodic table in it. We follow our main character Elizabeth, who is a chemist, and by chances of the world, after some things happen, she ends up having a cooking show, and her almost unexpected approach to cooking is what launches her into stardom. Particularly, it's always the very last line whenever I open this damn flap. This is the line that gets me. As it turns out, Elizabeth Sott isn't just teaching women to cook, she's daring them to change the status quo. So I want to read this so very soon. We'll see what happens, but I've just heard the most amazing things about this one, and I'm very excited about it. I didn't realize just how many vampire books we had in this haul. I'm really living for it though, because again, we have been deprived for a really long time and I am ready to find some really good ones. However, one of my patrons has been very insistent on me really liking this book and how much I need to read it, to the point where she actually sent me a copy, and this is Blood Mercy. It is a chunker of a book, but I have heard such high praise for this book. Again, one of those very well loved vampire stories, so I am hoping I love this one. I feel like it's got a lot of time to develop and establish everything it wants to. I don't know the ins and outs of the synopsis though. It does seem like it's going to be like a forbidden romance of some sort. You know, an alliance to save the kingdom, something forbidden that could be a death sentence. It all sounds very hot, and it's a slow burn. It's a steamy romance. I love me some slow burn. I also love me some steam. My two favorite words. We've got another sequel, and one that I am so excited about. I do need to borrow the audiobook from Libby though, because the audiobook for Daughter of the Moon Goddess was so very good. And now we have got The Heart of the Sun Warrior, which is the sequel to that very first book. This is the Fairy Loot edition. It is so very stunning. And so I am very, oh my god, look at the end papers! I am so excited to read this and to see how the story progresses. I totally just hit myself on the head, by the way, if you could see that. If you couldn't, thank you very much for sparing me the embarrassment. But honestly, Fairy Loot's copies are always so out of this world. Is this a duology or is this like a full-blown? Oh, it is a duology. Oh, I was going to say, is it like a full-blown series? But it doesn't appear to be. I'm actually going to finish the series in 2023. Another book I really want to read soon because I am all for cozy fantasy, and the vibes that this book exudes, just, I need it in my life, which is why I bought it. And that is Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies. This is also the Fairy Loot edition. I managed to get a hold of this thanks to one of Liv's Patreons, and I am so very happy that I managed to get this copy because it is absolutely ridiculously stunning, and the prices they were going for in Pango Books were actually quite terrifying. However, in this one, we follow obviously Emily Wilde, who is a very accomplished scholar. She is very good and very knowledgeable at fairies. She knows exactly what she is doing and she is kind of recognized for it. What she is not good at is people. And in the midst of her adventures, so to call them, she ends up meeting her academic rival, Wendell. And as they have to figure out something or other, she also has to solve the mystery of who exactly this guy is. There's just something about the books that are coming out recently that I'm just like, yes, give them to me, let me love them. And then last but not least, I have got the Luminaries. This is the Illumicrate edition because I also had to get it because it's stunning. Look at that foiling. And so very, very excited to read this one too. We've got some end papers. We have got a ridiculous naked hardback. And then we've got some stunning edges. So I think this book is just like a win overall as far as like the aesthetics go. It's also a short one. I'm really, really vibing with these shorter fantasies. That being said, we follow Winnie, who wants to become a luminary. And luminaries are people that protect the town from monsters and evil forces. And again, something happens. Can you tell that I'm very much into not reading synopses? But she will have to team up with her ex-best friend, who seemingly based on the synopsis could potentially become a love interest. I like that cycle too. I like friends to lovers. I am vibing with that too. And so together they basically need to unlock the mystery that lies behind Hemlock Falls before everything goes to shit, essentially. And I love that the absolute most. And that is all I've got for you guys today. I hope that you guys enjoyed this one. If you did, don't forget to give it a massive thumbs up down below for a good little book haul. Comment down below if you've acquired any new books recently. Have you hauled anything? Do let a girl know. And if you've reached the end of the video, leave a vampire emoji down below for our resident vampires in this video. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't done so already. And if you want to support the channel further, I do have a Patreon. It is always linked down below alongside all of my socials, including the link to our podcast Talk and Talk, which you guys can totally check out on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Love you all the absolute best, and I shall see you in the next one. Bye guys.